Hey everyone, it's Isaac from True Champion Gaming, and today I'm showing off my Water Ally list. So this is a list that I played in the Yeti tournament, the weekly Yeti tournament online, over webcam on Discord, and it did really well. I went 3-0-1, only tied one game. I know that this week, because that was last week, this week Byfall also took the list in, something similar. I know it was a Water Allies with, it looked like a lot of the similar cards, and I believe he went 4-0 with the list. So it's a solid list, something that is definitely really good and something to keep on your radar. But I do want to just show it off for you guys and show off some of the strength that it can do over something like Wind Allies that we have shown on the channel before. So we are going, of course, Spirit of Water. Spirit of Water, this gives us a lot more like solid defensive options is the best way I can put it. Maybe a little bit less damage because we can't run the Phalanx Captains, but we are getting defensive options. So that is why we are doing Water. Of course, level 1 Lorraine, you're mostly going just into level 1. We do run the level 2. With this, you're getting a free sword, so you're able to obviously attack a little bit. We do go into level 2. I actually honestly would say more often than our Wind Allies list because there's one more card that I'm going to show off that is the reason why we're doing that. So level 1 and level 2 Lorraine. Then of course we have our swords. We have Sword of Seeking and Ornamental Greatsword. Sword of Seeking is, again, like most of our ally lists, this is what you're going into normally because it can swing twice. So you can swing once on the turn that you bring it out. Maybe use an Inspiring Call. And then next turn, if you go into level 2 or you pop Crystal and you have a Banner Knight on board, then this becomes stronger, allowing you to swing for, again, more damage. Ornamental, this is here if you just need to push that extra damage. We also do run Weaponsmith in deck, so sometimes I like to bring this out if I do have a Weaponsmith on board and I'm going to materialize into level 1 Lorraine and bring out Ornamental Sword with it, so that this way this becomes a 1-2 that also buffs an ally. I do really like that, so that's what's happening there. And then the card, that reason why we're going into level 2 is because of Scepter of Lumina. So this is a new Proxia card. This card is insane for Water Allies. This is, to me, what makes Water Allies actually good now. So Water Allies is now strong because this allows you to do 4 damage when you do level up. So if we're going into level 1 or if we are going into level 2, we get 4 damage each time. So I depending on how to play, with this deck, I generally rush Scepter. Is the first thing I'm bringing out, maybe second thing I'm bringing out. Usually I might go into like GCR and then this. So I really value that 4 damage. The banish 5, put 5 down to banish this and draw 2 does come up, but less so because, like I said, I am wanting to get to that level 1, getting that 4 damage, and then sometimes I do rush level 2, or maybe 1 or 2 turns later, I go into level 2 because I do want that 4 damage that Scepter is giving us from going into level 2. I do value that quite a bit, so I don't like to. There's been times where I've had plenty of cards in hand, or I could pass with a couple cards in hand extra, and so playing something, so I could banish this, but I do want that 4 damage that level 2 is giving us. So I really value that highly. That might change depending on what people's decks are, though. Next we have Crystal. Crystal Empowerment, of course, like our Wind deck, we play this to gain the levels for Banner Knight. This does not proc Lumina. Lumina is specifically when you level up, not when you're gaining levels. And so this, specifically for Banner Knight, is always just a really good card to have for if you're only sitting on level 1 and you don't want to get rid of cards to go into level 2. We do run the Tariff Ring. Tariff is, honestly, it was a lot weaker in this deck than I thought it was going to be. It's something I am considering cutting for something like Smoke Bombs or something else. I'm thinking mainly Smoke Bombs because Smoke Bombs is so helpful. And we'll get to that later because we do run Smoke Bombs in the sideboard. And this card, because we have so many defensive options, just comes up less, and I often want to materialize something else. And then we have the baubles, of course, with any good aggro list does, where you just have, you could fit in other cards into your material deck other than the baubles, but having an extra card draw is just so vital in aggro. So we do run all 3, and then we can always side out 2 when we're going into games 2 and 3. And then finally, just GCR. We are not running Grail. There's no point to running Grail really in this deck. It doesn't really give us any kind of benefit. We have Lantern in the sideboard, but we also run Fracturize. So We can always, when in games 2 and 3, if we're against something like Erupting or something that has Rending Flames, we can go into, we don't even need Lantern for that, so we can just bring in Nullifying and Fracturize it, and we're set. So, of course, card draw is always really good. But yeah, let's move on to the main deck now. So we'll start with the water cards, some of the water cards here, which is 4 of Frostforn Paladin. This generally is just a 2/3. We run very little floating memory. It is something I'm considering about changing about the deck. There's a couple cards I have in mind to swap in and out, and I'll talk about those later. But 90% of the time, this is a 2/3 if you can get it to get the effect, because we do have, I think there's only 3 floating memory. If you can get that effect, this is very strong, but I mean, even as a 3-cost 2/3, that is just decent enough stats for us. We do run 4 Korhazi Trapper, so we're getting into our defensive options already. This card is so good. You play this on a board of any allies, and first of all, most decks have a very hard time killing this, especially on turn 1 and 2, because even if they try to swing into it, you can, if you really want to keep it alive, you can -3 of that attack. But more importantly, on board sweeps like flame sweeps, when fire flame sweeps for 5, you can just rest this, and I usually keep this up. Very rarely are you attacking with this card unless you have no prep counters. I keep this up to -3 on their on their champion, and then the whole board only gets swept for 2 if they're sweeping for 5. So very strong card. Also, if you're worried that because they do have to trade into it first then to kill it. If you see them, the very first thing they're doing is playing allies, or taking their allies to swing into it, and you do have a full board, expect a sweep from them, right? If they're on Lorraine and they're on level 1, level 2, if they have adversity out, whatever, expect the board sweep. And so even though this is going to die, just say on attack or before damage step, I'm going to rest it, -3 onto Lorraine, not on an attacking unit, because if this dies, if all they're doing that turn is killing this and not killing your board, that's perfect. That's where you want to be. So rest this to -3 to Lorraine if you think a sweep is coming, and then let it die. Lorraine still has that -3 even when they go to sweep, and so you're usually down 1 or 2 cards instead of your whole board. We do play a 4 of Snow Fairy. I would definitely cut this down to 2, I think. This just feels a little lackluster. There are times where it comes in clutch, and it does matter. It is similar to like a Smoke Bombs, but in the main board instead of this, obviously in the material deck. And it can be very strong against something like an ASIN if you want to kill an ASIN without, your units dying. Just pushing damage for like the last couple turns, but a lot of the times I didn't want to see this card as much as I did. So at the very least, a 3 of, if not a 2 of in the deck is what I would do. And we're going to start getting into our, still defensive, but this is our kind of balance package. So very small balance package because there aren't many cards obviously for that, but this is Lunette, Frostbinder Priest. Allies your opponent's control enter the field rested, and then if she's balanced, it gets +3 health. A lot of people think, and a lot of people I was playing against thought that the allies your opponent's control enter their field rested was the balanced effect. That is always the effect. She always is, if anyone plays an ally against you on that turn, it is rested. The balancing is only giving her +3 health. Very important to remember, because I had plenty of people thinking that, oh, she's not balanced, I can play this and I can attack into her. But no, they still can only play it, and it's still just rested. So very important thing to remember. I did only do a 3 of. I would still only keep this at a 3 of. I did not want to see this any more than I did. Sometimes it is a very just dead card in your hand. If you're not getting out early in the late game, you do not want to see this card unless you really somehow get really good board control back. It is funny to see someone play Majestic Spirit, and that instantly comes into the field rested. It will restand at the end of the turn, of course, but it can't attack for that turn. So that is also something good about this. If they somehow can't kill it and they're like into Merlin, this is a strong card for that. Next, we're going to get into some of our normal cards here, our normal allies, I should say. So Gildas is the other balance package, of course, balance card. Lunette and Gildas both being a 3 of is really solid. Turn 1 play, Lunette, if you're going first, is amazing. Followed into a turn 2 Gildas to also Balance, Lunette, and Gildas is really good, and then playing any of our other 3-cost cards is just great. Gildas is a 4 attacker when balanced, and that is very strong in an aggressive deck. We do play Woodland Squirrels, just like how Woodland Squirrels is good with Aeson and Gildas. Woodland Squirrels is really good with Lunette and Gildas. This card allows you to balance them really, really easily, especially if you're going second, or just later in the game when you just need to get rid of a card from hand to balance them. Maybe you're at, you can only play a 2-cost action or, attack or unit, and you have 6 cards in hand, but you also have a squirrel. Well, you can balance Gildas by having 6 cards in hand with a 2-cost card, so that's very good. We do run a 4 of Banner Knight. This is crucial. You do not run any less than this. Your deck lacks damage, and Banner Knight is the damage that we really do need. So, of course, class bonus warrior, level 2+. Other allies and weapons you control get +1 attack. That is a static effect, so even things are standing, they still get that +1 attack. So if something tries to trade into something, one of your units, and like a trapper, and they are standing, it can retaliate for 2 if you are level 2. Weaponsmith, we do play a 4 of this. This was just coming from our allies, Swarm ally list. I probably would cut this down. There was very few times where I was able to keep this alive like I wanted to, where it really did matter. Maybe just a 2 of, because it is a nice 1/3, 2 for 2 is a good stat line, but there's probably a couple other cards I would put in instead, and like a floating memory, like Savage Slash would be a something great to put over this. It also is a 2-cost, but is getting you a little bit more value and also gives that floating memory for your paladins. We do run a 3 of Esteemed Knight. This is something I might kick up to 4. Literally all it is a 2/3 for 3, same as our Froststorm Paladin most of the time. You need, I had other cards in it. Originally, you need attack. You're unlike Wind allies, you cannot buff your guys as easily to gain damage. And so this is, attack stat is actually more crucial in this deck. We do run a 4 of Lurking. Again, very good card. This is, the best statted version of our 3-cost 2/3 usually, because it does have stealth while it's awake and can retaliate attackers while not defending, which people really do forget about. And so you can kill off or deal extra damage on their turn when they're not expecting it. So very good card. And then a 3 of Imperious Highlander. I know this is a weird card, but my goodness, is this card crucial to the deck. It is one of the cards I would think about kicking up to 4. Like maybe I'll get rid of a Weaponsmith to put a 4th of this in. This is your card to get back when you're behind. This is the #1 card to get back when you're behind because, excuse me, if something gets, like one of our hardest matchups is actually Swarm Lorraine, because they get better value and better stats than us. If they have a board of big guys, or of a bunch of guys, you can play this and it might just get even just a +2 buff. That's enough to kill an Aeson, and that's great. Like if this is coming onto board, might be even balancing Gildas, and you can swing to kill an Aeson, or swing to kill a Phalanx, or swing to kill a whatever, that is insane value. Just be aware, it does say it gets +X until the end of turn, where X is the amount of ally target opponent controls more than you control. This does count itself. So if you play this on a board with itself versus just one other ally, it's not going to get any kind of buff. 2 allies and just itself, it gets +1 attack. 3 allies and just itself, it gets +2 attack. So just be aware that it is not just that it does count itself. Finally, we'll move on to the action cards from our deck. We do run a 4 of Inspiring Call. Again, very crucial card, just like Banner Knight. Our deck lacks damage. This gives damage. We can flood the board a little bit, less so than Swarm, when Swarm Lorraine, but this is a very good card. Would never cut this down less than 4. I wish I saw it more. I felt like I never saw it, and remember, this is a fast action, so you can do this. If you save cards, you can activate this at the beginning of Recollection, draw a card in the memory, and essentially it replaced itself, and you did before Recollection and to buff your board. Yeah, maybe you're missing 1 or 2 attack on a couple other units, but since it replaced itself, you have more cards for the turn to use. We do run a 4 of Deflecting Edge. We're getting into our defensive action cards. That is our only offensive action card, is Inspiring Call. These are our defensive actions. Deflecting Edge, very good card. protects your Gildas, protects your whatever unit, allows you to use this before you have to use trappers or vice versa. You can technically burn this card if you have a sword out for free, if you really need to balance a Gildas or whatever, or a Lunette. I have done that to balance the Lunette so it doesn't die, or to give it attack or whatever. So good card to pay attention to, not just for the defense of blocking 3 attack damage, but it can help with a kill turn technically if you're missing that balance damage. We do run a 4 of Frostbind. I would not cut this lower. This is a very good card. People have to play around it. People have to respect it. You have 3 cards in your hand when you pass. People cannot just play into this unless they have no other choice. So very strong card. Many times, this is also a card, like a lot of times, Fire Lorraine will go into level 2 with adversity, and when they do that, they go down to like 5 cards, or usually in hand, is what I saw often. I saw that like 3 times, and they would try to flame sweep, and I would just frostbind and negate it, and I was sitting happy because my board was alive and they lost a card. It can also, of course, block anything else, any other kind of card too for activation, and that's very nice. We're running a 4 of Song of Frost. You could probably cut this down to 3 because we are running the 4 of Frostbind. I just really like this card, and so I probably would keep it at a 4. This just blocks damage. This can be like a deflecting edge essentially, but on pumped up because it does cost 2. So again, if you have 3 cards in hand, if the best thing I have seen is having 3 cards in hand, either for Song of Frost, Frostbind, or our next card that we'll get to, which is Fracturize, and you have so many options. That is a really fun card hand which I have had going into your opponent's turn when you pass, having a Song of Frost, Frostbind, and a Fracturize. Very solid cards. We are just, like I said, we are playing defensive. We can protect our board. This instantly blocks a Flame Sweep, regardless of how many cards I have in hand, and negates that attack. And again, you can do it at any point in the attack. And so something to remember is rending. Someone say rending and they hone, let them do all their stuff, and then say before damage step, I'm going to cast Song of Frost. I'm going to cast Song of Frost. And the reason why you do that is because if they do rending, they have to banish 3 cards if they want the double damage. They have to do that on activation, I believe. And so waiting to use this specifically for rending is really strong before damage step. There are times where you do want to cast this right away because if you cast this on activation, or as soon as they start to attack, you can cast this, and this can block or stop on attack effects. This can completely negate something like a hasty draw. I probably wouldn't use it for that, but if there are stuff that says like on attack draw, this card would be great to stop that from happening. So I do really like the versatility of that card. And then we run a 3 of Fracturize. I almost want to pop this up to 4 because of the floating memory, and because of the later game decks. As the game goes on, this becomes even stronger, depending on the certain cards. And also, this is the card to use with Nullifying Lantern against those Rending Flames or Erupting Rhapsody matchups. Great card. Like I said, it's great to have Song of Frost and Frostbind with it in hand when passing your turn. This is a scary hand to have. Well, if they knew what you had, this would be a scary hand for them to realize that you had. So I really like Fracturize. I kind of want to run in a 4 of, but it's hard to 100% justify that. Something to remember: you can, with those dead baubles in your hand from our material deck. So if you're playing against, whatever you're playing against, depending on what it is. If you're playing against, I'm trying to find all my baubles. Here they are. If let's say you're playing against Fire, and it is game 1, you can bring out a Wind Resonance Bauble. At the end of their turn, if they haven't done anything, you haven't used the cards in your hand, you didn't need to, you can Fracturize this Wind Bauble if you had brought it in. That way you get a floating memory in the drop, and you create like a mana rock here. And the reason why you would do that is specifically for Paladin. So now you can Paladin eat that floating memory, or if you wanted to level up, of course. But if you want to use this for Paladin or leveling up or whatever, then that's a solid play to remember. And before we move on to our sideboard, here's a couple words actually from me.
Hey everyone, it's Isaac. And if you want to support us, get merch, or pre-order the next set from GA, then you should check out our website. Over on our website, you'll find stickers, t-shirts, playmats, and material deck sleeves, and the next set of Grand Archive for pre-order. So make sure to check that out. Also, if you like content, then you should check out our Patreon. Over there we have an exclusive podcast series, extra gameplay videos, and articles written by us to help your competitive gameplay. In any case, if you like what we do here on YouTube, then don't forget to like and subscribe, as it does help us out a lot. Thank you.
Okay, so for sideboard cards, this is an interesting these are interesting cards to put in. I probably would change them. Something as simple, so yeah, well, I guess I'll just get into it. We're on a 4 of Still Water Patrol. The only reason why we're running this is because we have literally 0 way to deal with stealth. That was my thought, is bring this in, and now we have something to deal with stealth. Very rarely was I actually even able to play this against something like a Dream Fairy. One, because they could bounce it and, bounce my card or rest my card or whatever, and Dream Fairy would still be alive. We can protect this pretty well, with how our deck plays. So it isn't the worst, but Eye of Argus might just be something better because it takes up only 1 spot. It does draw us a card, I believe. I'm trying to remember that. I think it does draw you a card once you banish it, and give something True Sight. Our sword can do True Sight, by the way. Sorry, I should mention this isn't our only way. Our sword into like level 2 or with a Banner Knight on board is how we can also deal with a stealth unit. But there was one matchup I played against Wind, and I put this in the 4 of into my deck as soon as we went to games 2 and 3, and I didn't see it, or when I did have it, they didn't play a single Dream Fairy. So very weird card to have. It probably just needs more testing, but something I'd probably take out for now. We do run Poison Coating Oil. This is just for more damage. We don't play a ton of stealth. We play Lurking and Snow Fairy. If I'm cutting more Snow Fairies, this might be something that actually does get cut, but it is a very solid option for Lurking to do an extra 2 damage. Smoke Bombs. Like I said, this is something I'd probably put in instead of Terrafring, actually. This was something probably would main board. We don't really have a great way to get rid of stuff with Taunt or Intercept, like Wind does with Dream Fairy, or to be able to bounce stuff or Zephyr stuff. So this actually becomes way better in our deck than it does in Swarm Lorraine because it is much more crucial. I do have Tithe in here. Not sure if this is necessary. It is something I ran because I wasn't sure about how much Winds, like Merlin or maybe Rye, would be running into. But those are the 2 deck lists that you would, if you're playing against, that you would want to bring this out in. Rye can still draw a decent amount of cards, and Merlin with Pendragons and bouncing and Enlightenment counters. Like if you watched, actually at the time of this recording, Kevin put up a list in our Discord for his Wind Merlin that definitely draws more than 3 cards per turn. So still a valuable card in those matchups. And then Nullifying Lantern. Like I said, this isn't you run this against Rending or Erupting, and my goodness, as soon as you fracturize this, the game feels so easy. Your deck already does really well against those matchups of Fire Lorraine or Erupting. It already has a great matchup because you can Frostbind, you can Song of Frost their stuff, and then if game 2 and 3, if you lost game 1, a bummer. Game 2 and 3, you should almost have a guaranteed win with being able to fracturize this and getting this on board. It is a very very powerful combination that you should look into. If you don't, basically when you fracturize this, because of how the game works and how the rules work, it is something they kind of missed, but it is something that's going to stay in the game for the time being because they would have to rework all the rules. But if you fracturize this, essentially, it becomes a... I'm trying to find my fracturized cards. I don't know where that went. But essentially, when you fracturize this, this becomes fracturized still, but still gains the effect of cards in graveyards are normal elements. So is a weird effect. There are plenty of videos. If you look up Nullifying Lantern and Layers, Grand Archive on YouTube, there's people who've done videos on it. But basically, when you fracturize this, Fracturize says target item or weapon becomes a Cleric Fractal Fantasia with reservable and loses all of their abilities. Essentially, when that effect goes on this like layers stack, this card is read first, because of how the layers work, like kind of like how coding does, and then this effect is red. So then this says cards in graveyard are normal elements. That is happening always, and then this says then it loses all abilities instead of the losing all abilities happening first, meaning this card wouldn't even get red. But because think of it as coding, there's like lines that need to be read. This is already happening. This card in graveyards are normal elements is already being read, and then the target item becomes a fractal after the fact. So, and that's always happening. So this is always becoming, not only is it always putting graveyard cards are a normal effect, it also is becoming a fractal, and it is something, so it's basically, it's hard to get rid of for red, really hard to get rid of for red. Green, technically you can't get rid of it, but it's not that strong against green, and water, it doesn't matter. So, very strong combination. Game becomes easy mode against those decks. I probably talked about it longer than I need to, but honestly, it is something to know. So that is the deck. Hope you liked it. There are some things I would change. Like I said, I would probably run Savage Slashes in the main, maybe try to fit in some more floating memory, take out the Weaponsmith, but very strong deck into the meta that we have, and something that Fire, Lorraine, and of course Erupting really have to be careful of because it is so strong into them. This is not a deck that I think will actually just go away ever. I don't think it was just like a one-of deck. It is now proving itself to be stronger and stronger, especially with different changes. So definitely something you should try out, especially at locals if you're dealing with a lot of red, because it is a very strong deck. That's all I have for you guys. So thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate you guys, watching all the way to the end of the video. If that's you guys, we have merch on our store. Check that out. Check out all the links in our description. The deck list should be there. Our website should be there. Our Discord, everything. I can't remember what's in there, but definitely check those out. And thank you so much for supporting us. Bye.